We are back once again with the luminaries from AAPI who are here with us to celebrate the 29th anniversary of AAPI in New York City, the business capital of US, and on our show, The Leading Force, once again. Thank you for being here. We were talking about the Capitol Hill and almost the ruckus that you created last week over there to celebrate the annual legislative day. I think you named them, and there were from top to bottom lots of congressmen, lawmakers. Tell us about what happened during that day and what was the goal behind that?
Well, we are, as I said, we are getting into the legislative field now, and doctors, a lot of them are going to be congressmen over next 10 years. My hope is we'll have at least 10 members of Congress of Indian origin in next decade or even before that. What we went with legislative days, we have three issues which are very important to AAPI. Of course, malpractice reform, SGR fix, those are bread and butter issues which we know will only happen with time, unless until physicians are very much united and tell the Congress enough is enough, it's not going to happen. Our issue is more important than that. As you know, Sunilji, we are heading toward acute shortage of physicians.
True, welcome to that.
There is no denying that Congress is closed their eyes towards this disaster waiting to happen. In next 10 years, we will have at least 100,000 physician shortage.
Correct.
How are you going to address that? Congress has what most of the congressmen don't even know. Congressmen don't know there is a federal cap on the residency slots. That means you can only produce about 18,000 or so physicians in a year. And
now,
that
is that
cap,
to do with a weakness in our side that we have not educated them enough? We just wrote checks to them every time they came to you because they all count on support from you all, or is it just they were ignorant?
well, that's major part of it. Now they listen to us because, say, nothing to do with AAPI, but in a way, AAPI is a non-profit organization. This year, American Physicians of Indian descent have formulated a PAC.
Okay.
And first time in last 30 years plus, we have a PAC. And the physicians did do aggressive legislative work and supported the candidates who matter.
So how did you rope in all these congressmen, the lawmakers?
Because
in
they
one
realized
event?
once they know where organized force is coming. See, you go there and say donate $500 and get a picture, and that's it. But when PAC goes there, it's combined forces of doctor, that $500 is worth much more.
Excellent.
So because of this PAC coming into picture, because I had said in my inaugural speech last year that physicians should join together.
Sure.
And this is the first time PAC has been formed. So we had three issues, as I said. Lifting the residency cap, which has not changed. Unless until you are trained, you can't practice. And 20 years, just imagine how much growth in population has been. Generally, about 1 to 500 physicians you need. But with almost 250,000 increase in population, you are getting one extra doctor. So 4 million increase in population, we are adding only 16 physicians. Just imagine 4 million population increase and only 16 physicians. Aren't we heading for disaster?
Now, does it have to do with that the people don't want to be doctors, or we're not getting enough doctors, or is it to do with what has been being talked about, the cut in the compensation packages? I hear that there was a time when being a doctor was a boon. Oh, you're a doctor, so you're a multimillionaire to start with. Today, when you look at it, that a doctor's premium, annual premium for insurance itself is exceeding $150,000. His staffing costs are exceeding. Then there are lawsuits. And I think the Affordable Care Act that we were talking about earlier, give us a little bit of insight to that. Maybe Dr. Shah, you would like to field on it. How this, every president after president, even in the last term, I think I remember it from the time of Mrs. Hillary Clinton, she wanted to create it. Finally, I guess President Obama has been able to reach there. We'll talk about its ramification later, but tell us a little bit about this, why as we call it ACA.
Sunilji, I think the way you're talking, I thought you're a medical journalist, not a regular journalist, because you brought up those issues. See, this is a multi-pronged problem. One problem is that we have to take care of the society.
True.
We have to take care of the sick people. And other problem is that we are spending more money per capita than other developed countries, and still our mortality rates and the other sickness, if we look at the data, they are not comparable to the other countries. So these are the these are the data which say what is going on. We are not talking of the doctors only. We are talking of how to take care of the population. That's why our young physicians, they are more trained than we are. So the dynamics have to change. Fresh look is being taken at that why our expenses are so much. Because the new technology is coming in, like computer system and all that, which are not there before, they can gather more data. You might have read the article in New York Times yesterday about the double CAT scans and all that. And the other problem we are facing is, as you mentioned, liabilities. On one hand, we are cutting down on the tests, we want to spend less money, but on the other hand, we are hesitant in addressing a major expense, the liability expense.
True.
We have, sometimes the tests are done to cover the liability. So our expenses are going up. All these things are being looked at to see how to change it. And that is why what Dr. Singhvi was saying, that we are participating in Washington, D.C. to educate our congressmen and lawmakers, because lawmakers are not doctors. So if we educate them, they will understand where the doctors' problems are. Why? This is not the doctor's problem. Other miscommunicated doctors are fighting for their money. That's not as true as is being painted. Actually, doctors are the people who are in the trenches, who are taking direct care of the patients.
True.
So they know their problems.
True.
And that is why they fight for it.
That's why Dr. Singh was bringing a point that as we go forward into the next decade, it's very important that you guys infiltrate into the Capitol Hill, because now somebody sitting hand in hand and making policies and thinking and understanding the inside of it is only possible with that.
That is,
I guess.
absolutely.
And the medical liability reform, as you talked about, and as they say that from the Congressional Budget Office, there are some estimates we could have saved about $13 billion in last 2 years if they were implemented. And they are projecting billions of dollars of saving over the next 1 decade if they implement it. And I believe Texas and California has implemented some of the reform which has shown results. Less lawsuits, less premiums, and then almost 50–60% growth of new residents and new doctors registering in these 2 states. How soon you think this can expand into other states also?
I think it will take a long time. I tell you, in New York State, as you know, a few months ago, the Governor Cuomo put in the clause that there should be a cap on the non-economic loss, not on the economic loss, non-economic loss to $250,000. But that cap, that didn't pass through the assembly and all that. And you know why. I don't have to go into that. Because legislatures, they are attorneys, they are, there are so many different forces work on that. They are pulling on this side, they are pulling this side. But the changes have to be addressed. The liability will be addressed. I think with the technology, we will be able to provide better care. We will be able to identify where the needs are, where the money will come from. That also has to be looked at. And there will be tremendous shortage of physicians. As Dr. Singhvi pointed out, that if we are going to ensure another 15 million people in the insurance plans and we have to treat them, we need physicians to treat them. So it's a big challenge.
Yeah, well, that is the challenge he just talked about, the shortage of doctors, which is like an atom bomb in the making by 2014 when they all enter this new care system. You're talking of millions of people coming into the system. You're talking of the uninsured people staying in the system. And you're talking of the almost 80 million baby boomers coming and joining the system. Where are these doctors coming from?
Sunilji, let me tell you briefly. I don't think the lawmakers are as ignorant as they claim to be. You talk to them about residency slots, oh, we don't have money. Just imagine $1 trillion economy, can't you spend $10 billion over 10 years?
Well, they claim to be caring for the health.
Those 10 billions will bring multifold of employment opportunities, taxes, and other revenues. But that is one issue about making doctors, train them, and get them into the mainstream practice. The simple issue of J1 visa waiver, which is basically for our viewers, doctor comes here, he trains on a J1 visa.
Right.
Now, once he's trained, you have produced a very important person who will be taking care of hundreds of thousands of patients over his lifetime.
True.
These doctors are required to go back to India for 2 years. And we have been asking Congress to have this visa waiver so they can serve the community and be productive. So on one hand, those doctors which you are producing, you are letting them go. You have invested so much in them, and they go and have to compulsorily be in India or other countries wherever they are. I don't think half of them will ever return, or maybe more than half.
And it's such
an
easy thing. They just have to give a waiver.
Yes, just waiver. Senator, Congresswoman from California is working very hard. This is such a simple issue. We should make it a bipartisan issue and not fool around.
So essentially looking for increase in the residency,
Slots,
J1 waiver.
increase in residency slots, J1 visa waiver.
I believe the H1 cap itself impacts the people who are graduating and training here. You are impacted even by that cap right now.
I do not know much about that, but I can tell you economic well-being of young physicians, what Mamta can probably go at this time, is absolutely essential. How can they afford?
And you think the youngsters are willing to go and serve the underserved or the inner cities? Because my daughter wants to be a doctor and she looks at her aunt because she drives the latest Mercedes, has a huge mansion, and she thinks, I want to be a doctor. And I thought that's not what doctor is about. I think it's about serving and taking care of people. So you think the youngsters are ready to go and serve the?
So I think as you grow and as you mature, the reasons for becoming a doctor are always varied amongst whoever you ask, but the main goal is to try to help and to try to take care of people and to try to make a difference. But when you are looking at the just explosive costs of higher education, whether it be college, whether it be medical school, it's just, people just completely turn away from the field. And rather than trying to make it easier with loans or loan forgiveness, these kinds of issues, rather than making it easier for people to want to enter medicine, people who are bright, ambitious, ready to take on the responsibilities of being a physician, they're making it harder. They're cutting back spending on higher education. And they meaning, Capitol Hill, the federal government. And so when you look at college education prices and medical education prices, it just supports the problems that we're having right now.
And what do you think of these institutions that have come up in the islands? They are kind of complementing, supplementing, supporting the needs to grow new doctors?
There's many ways to look at that. When you look at a U.S. medical graduate versus a foreign medical graduate, you can't necessarily say the training or the intelligence is different, but the matter of fact is that FMGs will have a more difficult time obtaining, the competitive specialties, the residency slots that were discussed. There's only a finite number. So when you train foreign medical graduates, they're going to have a much more difficult time landing those residency positions. So what you need to do is create more medical schools in this nation.
Okay.
And again, it goes back to where are you going to get the money to do that.
So it's another case of a GM or an AIG or a Citibank that was facing us 2 years ago. And the president had the will to go and do it, but not preparing here for the future, I guess.
See what Mamta says, to support that, after so many years, after the last 30 years, I think first new medical school is being started in New York this year, in Hofstra, North Shore Hofstra University Medical School. And there are 2 more medical schools started after that. So 3 medical schools have been approved after so many years. So what Mamta is saying, either you increase the number of doctors here, or you have to get from somewhere else, and then you have to train them as well. So that's the way to attack it. To address the other people, are they going to make 2-tier system? That's a possibility. When I'm saying 2-tier, I think it's a taboo word. But if you don't have physicians, who will be taking care of these people? Will they be authorizing nurse practitioners and nurses to take care of that? But that will create 2-tier system. The quality of care. If you don't need the physicians training, why we are training physicians? So I think these are the issues which are being addressed right now, and they are the hardcore questions which you asked, where we are going to get the people.
It is already a 2-tier system. I hope it's not 3 or 4-tier system. The university level where you get the best of care, but you don't need to go there if you take primary care. If you come to California and you ask who is your doctor, say my doctor is Dr. Shah, when did you see him last? I have not seen him in a year.
That's
I have
not
been
good.
seen
That's
by
not
a
good.
nurse practitioner or a physician assistant, and this is a very big problem. These people treat patients without much knowledge. They can make simple decisions about cold, cough, and all that, but you are not even producing doctors. How this country is going to cope with that? As Dr. Shah said, in 30 plus years, there have been 4 medical schools. California, UCR, which is still not opening. Florida, South Florida, and Long Island. Now, 3 schools starting in 40 years with 50 graduates starting per year. And the demand is huge. Somebody cannot think what's going on in this country. AAPI is the first one to take this issue. In fact, I was at Capitol Hill talking to the president, Dr. Wilson, and he kind of said, yes, we need more physicians. I said, how come? You never raised this issue. AAPI is the first one to go to Capitol Hill 4 or 5 years ago that we need more physicians, and you are still, in a fix whether you should support it wholeheartedly. Just imagine, American Medical Association, one of the most powerful organizations, and I was a little bit hesitant to say that, but I decided to say, I asked them, I asked Dr. Wilson, in last 70, 80, 90 years, no president could pass a healthcare bill. President Obama did. Why? Because American Medical Association supported it for the first time. That's why it passed. But what did American Medical Association, what did physicians get in return? From 22 to 26 years of coverage? From pre-existing illness, you cannot refuse insurance. What is the solution? Insurance companies are going to refuse. After 3 years of fight, they will pay $100 per day fine and get away with it. Do you think we have achieved a lot? What happened to malpractice reform?
But we'll come to that question, that point you bring, because we have some plans and we'll all conspire together to see what we need to do with you. In the next segment, since you brought up the issue of AMA and its leadership, I guess we have some thoughts as we'll bring up. After the break, we'll be back. Quick short break. We are with AAPI, the leading force in North America. Stay right back.